Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah and this is Jar of Fireflies. Here I make videos all about my life as an Orthodox Jewish homeschooling mother of 4. And today I'll be sharing with you 3 easy to make weeknight dinners. That's right, folks, we're going to be cooking today and I am so excited. Okay, so we were in the need of a little bit of a mix up in our routine. We needed some new dishes for the weeknight. We were just kind of falling into a rut and we needed something new and fun. So I started scouring the internet, found a couple of new recipes, as well as digging up an oldie but a goodie now that the weather is chilly. So I will be sharing these 3 recipes with you guys today. Okay, let's dive right in. The first recipe is Coke chicken, and I know that sounds totally bizarre, but I promise it's really delicious. This was a big hit with every member of my family, so it's definitely going to be falling into our rotation. I found this recipe on a YouTube short of all places, and then found the blog of the content creator to find the full recipe in detail. And right, let's just dive right in. I knew I wanted to serve this with rice, so I decided to do that first since that was going to take the longest. So I started off with just 3 cups of rice, and then I am just rinsing it and I'm going to drain it until the water is clear. I'll just repeat that till the water is pretty clear. It usually takes 3 or 4 rinses for me to get this water clear enough. On that final drain, after the final rinse, I try to get out as much water as I can, and then I will add in water equal to the amount of rice that I have in my pot. So this is 3 cups of rice, so I'm now going to add in 3 cups of water. Then I'll just put this onto the stove top, and once that reaches a simmer, I'll put the lid on and lower the heat down to the lowest setting that I can and let that go covered for 20 minutes. Okay, ingredients. I am doubling this recipe, by the way, but I have got some chicken thighs, a couple of onions that I've gone ahead and sliced. I've got some soy sauce. We're gluten-free in our home, so I'm using the La Choy brand because it's gluten-free. I need some oil. I'm using avocado oil, and then you need some Coke. So because I'm doubling the recipe, it calls for 2 of these mini cans since I am doubling. All right, and back to the stove. I've got a shallow pan here and I am adding in that avocado oil and then my onion. Now in hindsight, I should have broken up the onion pieces before I put them in the pot, so learn from my mistakes and break them up before you put them in there. But anyways, those are gonna sit there and saute for about 3-4 minutes, and then I'm adding in my chicken thighs. I've already trimmed the fat off of these best that I could, and I'm just trying to put them into as much of a single layer as possible. Not exactly the right size pan for this project, but that's okay. I did eventually get them all to fit, and then I let them just sit there and cook until they were starting to brown on one side, and then I came through and flipped them all over and so they could brown on the other side. All right, once that chicken was done, I added in 1 cup of soy sauce. Again, I'm doubling the recipe. I put the recipe link, by the way, in the description box below, so you can print this out for yourself if you so desire. And then I'm adding in my 2 cans of Coke. Now this was fun. It bubbled. It was like a science experiment. It kind of made my day. Once the Coke was all in there and the soy sauce, I just kind of used these tongs to move the chicken around a little bit and make sure that everything was covered in the sauce. All right, then I just added a lid and let that simmer for 15 minutes. Once that was done, I was ready to serve. It smelled so good, you guys, when I took the lid off. I was really, really happy about this. So to serve, I made a bed of rice on the plate, and then I just added on a couple of pieces of the chicken and then a little bit of extra sauce because my kids generally tend to want soy sauce on their rice that they eat anyways. All right, are you guys ready for a life hack? This one's my favorite. Okay, so the reason that I doubled the recipe isn't because it wasn't enough to feed our family, it was because I wanted to go ahead and pack our lunches for tomorrow. Packing lunches for a picnic can tend to be kind of a time-consuming thing for me, but it doesn't have to be. So because I had all these leftovers from dinner that I needed to package up anyways, I went ahead and put it straight into our lunch boxes and straight into the fridge. And that way, when we're ready to go on our picnic tomorrow, all we'll have to do is pull them out of the fridge and head out to the park. How fun was that? Oh my gosh. Yeah, like I said, everybody loved it. It was a really big hit with our family. Okay. And hey folks, while we're here in between recipes, this would be a great time to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I do occasional cooking videos like this and a lot of day in the life type content all about my life as an Orthodox Jewish mom. All right, and moving on. The next recipe, also found in a YouTube short. I'm telling you, who knew those things could be so useful? All right, I saw this and I was like, what is she doing? Like, what is she even doing? And I made it. I just kind of went with it and we loved it. Oh my gosh, like my kids have already asked for me to make this one again. So this was a big hit. I actually have salmon thawing on the counter right now that we can make it again tonight because yeah, big hit. Okay. Now, I have seen many different versions of this recipe, and as I'm kind of talking you through it, I'll just kind of talk about what I did, and then I have a recipe also in the description box below for you. But there are a lot of variations of this. I didn't tell you what it is. Oh my gosh, it's a sushi bake. It's a sushi bake. I know, it sounds so crazy, but it's so good. Okay. But yeah, there are a lot of different variations of this recipe out there, and here's mine. All right, similar to our last recipe, I'm starting out by cooking rice. Now, I am going to use sushi rice in this one instead of just regular like long grain rice or whatever. Anyways, but I am preparing it exactly the same way. So this is sushi rice and I am doing 2 cups of rice today. All right, now that that rice is prepared, I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the stove and turn that heat on and wait for me to see that simmer so I can put the lid on for 20 minutes. All right, in the meantime, I'm gonna turn on my oven to 400 because I forgot to do that before, and we'll get started on the salmon. Okay, so grabbing a baking tray, I'm gonna line that with a sheet of parchment paper, and then I'm just gonna put this big hunk of salmon that I had in the freezer onto the tray. All right, rice is ready, put the lid on. All right, back to the salmon. I've got some garlic powder that I'm going to add to this, and then a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Then I'm going to add on a little bit of avocado oil, rub that all together, and then I'm going to put that into the oven for about 15 minutes. All right, while that is in the oven, I'm going to work on this for the rice. So I am just going to mix together equal parts of sugar and rice vinegar. So I'm using 3 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons probably would have been plenty, but that's okay. And I'm just going to mix that up and set that aside until I'm ready to put that on my rice. I do use, by the way, Alton Brown's sushi rice recipe. I will link to that in the description box below for you guys as well. All right, once the rice was done after 20 minutes there, I went ahead and pulled the lid off and started giving that a little stir. I want my rice to cool off. I mean, I could have even done this like an hour ago, but you know, no time today, and that's okay. But I'm gonna give this a stir so that it will cool off as much as I can before I need to use it. Okay, and then the fish is done because it's only in there for 15 minutes. So I'm pulling that over here to the counter, and I need to pull the fish off the skin just because this one was cooked with skin. And I'm gonna move all of that fish into a mixing bowl. And then once I've got all the fish there in the bowl, I'm going to use a couple of forks here and just shred that up as much as I can. Now at this point, the recipe does call for crab or imitation crab. I don't have any of that on hand, so I'm just omitting that part, but I think it would have been a delicious addition. All right, so if you have that, add that now. All right, moving on. I needed a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise and a 1/2 cup of cream cheese. And then just mix all of that together. As a Sephardi Jew, we do not mix fish and dairy, and that is why I was using a dairy-free vegan cream cheese replacement thing. All right, now the rice is as cooled off as it's going to get, and I do need to get dinner on the table, so I'm now just kind of sprinkling in that rice vinegar and sugar mixture. I did most of it, so I did end up doing about 2 tablespoons mixed in there of each. And now I'm mixing that so that it's all mixed into the rice pretty evenly. Okay, now I'm grabbing a casserole dish, and then I'm going to add the rice in to the casserole dish, just all that rice. And then I'm going to flatten that out here the best that I can. Now, at this point, I oopsed. Okay, you're supposed to add furikake and not the salmon fish mixture, but that's okay. It worked out just fine. I'll remember next time. But anyways, I'm adding the fish next, but if you've got furikake, then add that in between. Okay, so as I am flattening that out, I'm realizing my mistake, and I'm also realizing that I don't have furikake. I do, however, have seaweed sheets, nori, so I'm just going to crumble up one of those the best that I can and put that here on the top. All right, good enough. I'm going to use my little spatula here and try to flatten that out a little bit, and then I'm going to put that into the oven for about 10 minutes. All right, 10 minutes is up. Time to pull that out of the oven, realizing I need another oven mitt, and now we're pulling it out of the oven. Okay. Just going to set this over here on the counter, add a few more things to the top, and it'll be ready to serve. So I'm starting off with a little bit of toasted sesame seeds, and then I'm going to add in some black sesame seed, and next I'm going to add in a little bit of spicy mayo. You can make your own with sriracha and mayonnaise, but I happen to have this in the fridge, so I added that into a little Ziploc and cut the end just so it wouldn't be quite so heavy on the mayonnaise. Next up, some sriracha sauce, and I'm only putting these sauces on half because I know my kids aren't going to want spicy, but I do. All right, last up, a little bit of chives to add on top because look, ma, vegetables. And then we are ready to serve. So you could absolutely eat this just like this on your plate, totally plain. That's how the kids enjoyed it. I, however, opted to eat it on little pieces of nori of the seaweed that I cut up, and that was delicious. I saw that suggested in a couple of the videos where I saw people making this recipe. So yeah, definitely my preference to use the nori. Okay, and the final recipe that I will be sharing with you guys today is an oldie but a goodie. Now that the weather is getting cold and a little bit dreary, this is like the perfect rainy day thing. It's really hard to write down a recipe for this, but I did my best for you guys there in the description box below. But this is kind of like one of those fantastic pantry cleanouts, and that's why this recipe was chosen, because I had some food that was just sort of random. And anyways, this is like the best thing to do when you're trying to clean out your vegetable drawer or deal with some leftover, or you have some soon to be expired cans of veggies in the pantry, anything like that. This is the perfect time to pull out this recipe. Also, when it's cold and rainy and dreary, like it is today. And this recipe is one of those kind of comfort foods for me because my mom made a version of this soup when we were growing up, probably for the same reasons that I just listed. So it's kind of fun to bring this back in and serve it to my family as well. All right, so let's dive right into the, and I've just realized that I still haven't told you guys what this one is. It is a meatball vegetable soup. This is why I'm not a cooking channel, you guys. Reason number 47 why I'm not a cooking channel. All right, let's dive right in. All right, there's so much leeway in this recipe. The whole thing started because I had some leftover stuff like this ground beef that I wanted to use up. So I took my ground beef, added in an egg, and then some breadcrumbs. We like these Ian panko breadcrumbs. They are gluten-free and they they work really well for us. And that is how I'm going to make the meatballs for the meatball soup. So I'm just going to mush that up there with my hands and then shape those into about 1-inch balls once that is mixed up. To cook the meatballs, I'm just going to put them in boiling water for 30 minutes. And where has this method been my whole life? This makes the most delicious, amazing meatballs. Way better than putting them in the oven. Just so you know, if you didn't know, because I didn't know. Okay, and now for vegetables. I'm going to prep these vegetables while that is cooking there on the stove, while the meatballs are boiling. Okay, so we just got random stuff in the fridge. We had some more of these matchstick carrots, and I really didn't need to cut them up, but I was thinking if I cut them up, maybe it would hide them a little bit better from the kids. But in hindsight, that was honestly kind of silly because it is a vegetable soup and there were plenty of other vegetables that they did see. So anyways, got my matchstick carrots and I'm just going to set those aside here once I am done with those. And then I've got these leftover one parsnip and then one other package of a parsnip that my husband did not use up last Shabbat. So I'm just going to add those in. If you don't normally cook your soup with parsnips, I highly recommend it. They, look like a carrot. They have kind of the texture of a carrot, but they're much sweeter. It's a great addition. Anyways, cutting those up into decently small enough pieces. And no, I absolutely do not share knife skills like Mr. Firefly has. He has got the knife skills. I am like the slowest vegetable chopper in the world. So cut out most of that for you guys. You're welcome. And then I realized that I forgot to chop the onion, which it's probably better to save for the end anyways because they make you cry. All right, so I just grabbed one onion and I'm just gonna chop that up into tiny little pieces because they're really good in soup. And literally 30 minutes later, when I'm done chopping vegetables, my meatballs are done. So I'm just gonna move those off of the oven. I'm gonna drain them. You can see all that yuckiness in the water also that comes out when you boil them in water as opposed to baking them. But I'm also giving them a little rinse because that water looked really gross. All right, setting those aside for now. I've got my soup pot here and I'm gonna add those onions in as well as the carrots and parsnips. In hindsight, again, I should have added the celery at this point, but it was no big deal. Basically, had I added the celery now, then I could have simmered for 30 minutes less, but it was fine just simmering it longer. No big deal. Okay, but back to it. I'm adding in a little bit of avocado oil, and then I'm just gonna stir that and let this cook here for, 3, 4, 5 minutes, just to kind of soften up those vegetables there a little bit and start to release those flavors. Okay, so after a few minutes of that, I am adding in a can of tomato sauce. Careful, your pot is hot and this will bubble. And then I am going to add in some tomato paste. Yes, well aware that is upside down. Mr. Firefly opened this to make himself some spaghetti sauce earlier today, which is why I'm including it in my soup. Normally I would use a full can, but since we have the partial can open, that is what I am using today. Okay, with those two sauces there added in, or the sauce and the paste, whatever, I am just going to give that all a little stir, mix that all together. Now I am ready to add some water. So I am adding in 8 cups of water at this point. If my pot was bigger, I could have added more. I did end up adding some more water like that night after we had finished taking what we wanted. But anyways, basically fill your pot up, however big your pot of soup is. All right, I'm just going to give that a little stir, kind of make sure nothing's stuck on the bottom, and now I am ready to add in my spices. So starting with some turmeric. I don't really measure these things, but I'm guessing it's about a teaspoon, and probably a couple teaspoons there of salt. And then I've just got some paprika, probably about another teaspoon or so, and then some Italian seasoning because I couldn't find fresh parsley, and I way overdid it on that, so I scooped a little bit of that out. All right, I'm just gonna give that a little stir and then let it simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, that's been simmering there for about 15 minutes at a pretty solid simmer, so I'm ready to add in my vegetables. First, my celery, which again, should have added earlier. Don't make my mistakes. And then it's time for all this leftover stuff. Okay, starting with some corn. This was in the refrigerator left over from earlier in the week, so I added that in. I've got some green beans there in the pantry that were nearing their expiration date, and I added in some sliced white potatoes. I didn't have any leftover potatoes in the fridge, so I did just grab these 2 cans from the pantry. All right, and now I can add in my meatballs, and I'm just gonna give all of this a stir, get it all mixed in there, and then all of this can just simmer for about 30 more minutes. All right, 10 minutes before serving, you can add in some pasta so that that can cook in there as well. However, we had leftover pasta already cooked from Mr. Fireflies meal earlier in the day, so I just cut that up a little bit so it would be not quite as large pieces, because this was like whole fettuccine, and then I can just add that individually into people's bowls who want noodles. Okay, and that is it. Delicious meals that we've had here in our house this past week. I hope that you enjoyed seeing what we've had to eat. I hope you got some good ideas and some new recipes to try. Drop me a comment down below and let me know your favorite meal for the winter, now that it's like getting kind of colder out and things like that. Let us know what your favorite food to eat is, and we can get some new ideas, all of us together, down there in the comment section. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel out so much, and it shows me what kinds of videos you guys like to see. All right, and with that, we're gonna call this video a close. I hope that you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in my next upload. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you I'll be sharing with you 3 easy to make winter. And today I'll be saying, all right, I ran into I still didn't tell you guys what it is.